would want people to text in the show on 077 488 55055. So yeah, I'm Raheema Caratella. I am part of the Green Guardians, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Green Guardians. I'm joined in the studio today by my guest, Samantha Woods. And Samantha will be sharing more about all the environmental conservation work that she does in the city. We also have a team of Green Guardians who are outside on Evington Road right now, outside Masjid Omar. And actually, what I'd say to any of you is, I don't really mind if you don't sit here and listen to my show for an hour. What I do want you to do is get up, get out of your homes, go along to Evington Road and see if you can get involved in today's activity, which is litter picking. So they've got equipment for you. They've got bibs. They've got litter picking sticks. They've got gloves. They've got the bags, everything that you need. So go and join the team outside. And if you can't, then do give them a hoot, give them a wave, give them some encouragement when you see them out there, because they did this last week on East Park Road and St. Saviour's Road, and they were out for 2 hours. And actually, Habiba mentioned that she had lots of people coming up to her and giving her encouragement, lots of people from the Gurdwara who came out. And they felt like actually they were doing something really rewarding. And today's conversation will be about how Islam and the environment are so connected, and actually we don't even realize it. And so yeah, today I want to kind of get you guys to think about, what elements of nature do you connect with the most? Is it kind of going along walks on the streams, listening to birds? Is it when you're at the beach on the edge of the water, letting the waves lap against your feet? Is it your toes buried in the sand? Is it sat in the park, running your fingers along the grass? But I don't know about you, but I've been really loving the Omar Suleiman Jannah series. And yesterday's episode was about the streams and rivers of Jannah. And he says, flowing water has a calming effect like no other. Psychological and biological activation when we hear running water. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Jannah in the Holy Quran, it's rarely without mention of gardens beneath which rivers flow. I've learned a lot about this from the series, especially about the reward for protecting the nature here. Has deep rewards and lush gardens ready for you in Jannah. So you've got to be proactive here. You've got to be doing all the right things in this life to then be rewarded in the next. So as mentioned, with the Green Guardians, they are outside right now litter picking on Evington Road. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and give them a video call later on in the show to see how they're getting on, what they're up to, what things that they found. And it is quite shocking, actually, some of the things that they find in and around the road. And actually, let's just be better. Let's be better. Let's find a dustbin and put our rubbish in the bin. Because actually, as Samantha will give us an insight into some of the brooks and the conservation work she does, it has a detrimental effect to wildlife as well. So it's not just that it's unsightly, but there's microplastics and there's lots of other things that go on beneath the surface, right? And so yeah, give them a cheer if you see them out there on Evington Road today. And I'm going to give you a little bit more background on the Green Guardians, how we started. And so we started in 2021, and we realized that there's a lack of conversation around environmental issues within the Muslim community. And within a month, we already had like 30 members. It was great. We were really active. And we're just a voluntary group really in and around Leicester, so we're locally based. Our aims are to raise awareness, educate and implement change to create a more sustainable community. So we do this according to Islamic environmental knowledge, using the Quran and Hadith as sources. We also use scientific, social and technological environmental resources. Our objectives are about reducing religious illiteracy about Islam's holistic approach to the environment, educating children and adults, engaging with imams and religious leaders within our mosques and community spaces. It's also about offering people training and awareness courses, to help them engage. A lot of the work that we do is grassroots engagement. We have a grassroots approach. In the past, we've tried to work with local businesses and get them to adopt the Green Guardian Code. We've worked with lots of mosques and really getting a campaign around bringing in your own bottles to the mosque during Ramadan, just being more thoughtful about your impact, what's your carbon footprint, and how can you take better care of the environment without adding to it. So let me talk about our responsibilities as Muslims and what our faith teaches us about looking after the earth. So we live in a world full of different types of activisms and people urging others to listen to their ideas and accept them. And one of these movements is the eco-friendly movement that I'll put my hands up to, I'm a part of. So this is not anything actually new or abnormal. In fact, it's simply the teachings of Islam from over 1400 years ago through the Holy Quran and the noble teachings of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are being reiterated. Firstly, Allah the Almighty has placed us on this earth as his deputies. And Allah says in the Quran, remember when your Lord said to the angels, I'm going to create a deputy on earth. They said, will you create there one who will spread discourse on the earth and cause bloodshed while we proclaim your purity along with your praise and sanctify your name? He said, certainly, I know what you know not. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a vicegerent, can you say that word better than me, Sam? Vicegerent? Vicegerent. It's basically a custodian, Khalifa.
Like
yeah. So it's a person exercising delegated power on behalf of a sovereign or ruler. Now, Allah the Almighty is the King of Kings and the Lord of the worlds. Therefore, he is in ownership of everything. And we are simply making use of his property. Similarly, we are making use of this planet of ours, and therefore it is essential that we are guardians and we're going to protect and preserve it. And unfortunately, it's not quite the case in Leicester or throughout the globe or throughout this country. And there's a lot that we can do about it, and we'll go into that in more depth. But Allah the Almighty also says, and seek the betterment of the ultimate abode with what Allah has given to you, and do not neglect your share from this world, and do good as Allah did good to you, and do not seek to make mischief in the land. Surely Allah does not like the mischief makers, and do not go about the earth spreading disorder. So the way we've neglected our environment and broken trust given to us by Allah can fall under this category of causing mischief. On the land, spreading disorder because of the way the environment's been destroyed, from deforestation to being the cause of the extinction of animals, to the ripping of the ozone layer, pollution, and the list goes on. It is a result of our mistreatment of this trust of ours, this trust that God has given to us, that we're beginning to feel the negative impacts. And that's going to continue for future generations, and we're going to feel greater negative impacts of this unless we take action, right? Absolutely. So going back to the beginning around climate activism, climate change, tree huggers, whatever you want to call us, we're not just a fringe movement anymore. We're here. We're not just, white people, middle class, sandals and socks. That's not us. Like it has to be about more than one community doing demos and protests. We have to own it and say, actually, being green, thinking more about conservation issues, environmental issues is part of our deen. It's our religion, and it's center to our faith, and the connection between this life and the next and this world. When I go out in nature and I'm at the top of a mountain, or I'm, digging in the ground, tree planting, whatever it is, touching the soil, engaging with that creation, I feel so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Honestly, I'm just in such awe when I'm in these places, and I think this is so magnificent, and I just can't imagine how much more beautiful Jannah will be. Like, I take me there now. Would be my wish, Allah, whenever my time is up. But it is something that I can really connect with, and I have done over the last few years. And actually, Sam, I want to bring you in at this point, because I had the pleasure of meeting Sam a few years ago in lockdown. Actually, I turned up at her doorstep because I saw something on Facebook about Sam giving away seeds, because you were giving away seeds, weren't you?
We were giving away seeds and plants as well.
Seeds and plants, and I think I took carrots, courgettes from you, peas. And sweet corn. Did I grow them? Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Yeah. I reaped the reward of my harvest. Yeah, it was really delicious. And so rewarding. So yeah, Sam, tell me a little bit more about yourself. You've trained in permaculture. You've been involved in environmental activism for 30 years. Give me a bit more of a background of you, because I know you're involved in so many local projects and background. I mean, you've worked as a facilitator for so many different community empowerment projects to do with the environment. But yeah, let's hear some more about you, Sam.
Hi, Raheema. Thank you so much. Salam alaikum, everybody.
Wa alaikum salam.
So I came to Leicester in the mid-'80s as a student, and I grew up in a new town near London. But I've always been interested in the environment. You know, I became a vegetarian myself at 15 because it just seems so crazy to me that we were feeding a lot of grain. Even, you know, before the current crisis was really popular, it just seemed crazy to me the way that the food systems worked and the energy systems worked and the damage that people were doing to the environment. So from a very young age, I've wanted to work on making things better. Mm-hmm. And I've done that in different ways over the years, you know, sometimes through protesting. So like back in the 80s and 90s, when there were a lot of road protests, I went along and stood in front of bulldozers. Yeah. But as I've got older, I've really wanted to focus on positive solutions and things that people can do very simply in their own communities, in their own homes and gardens, you know, and in their own lives, you know, in order to make change. And what I really want to say today throughout this kind of conversation that we're having is that even little things that you do can make a big difference. Yeah. So the project that I'm working on at the moment, I work for Leicester City Council, and the project is called Saving the Saffron Brook. And it's a river restoration project in the city. So we've been actually just making minor changes to the brook, but what we've seen is where we've gone and done, you know, even quite small changes, the wildlife has started to come back in. So we're seeing more hens, we're seeing frogs spawn, we're seeing the river come back to life, you know, even where we've made these small changes.
That's amazing. That's actually awesome. Actually, Sam, as much as I said, let me get you in here, we've just had a notice to say, actually, our Green Guardians team, who are on Evington Road, have called in the studio live. Woo. And we're going to see if we can bring them in on a video call.
Excellent.
Assalamu alaikum, Habiba. What if we need to look there to see if we can see her? Assalamu alaikum, Habiba.
Hi, Habiba.
Can you hear me? Can you see us? It's all right. It's worth trying.
So the work that they're doing out, you know, litter picking is just so important, Raheema. You know, we have such problems across the city and in the rivers with litter. Yeah. Particularly drinks bottles, as you said, you know, this tiny switch to reusable bottles, you know,
can make
really
such a huge difference. So tell me about like having bottles and plastics in waters, whether it's rivers, whether it's streams, whether it's the ocean. There's the microplastics, and how does that affect wildlife and especially marine life?
Yeah, well, basically, all through the river catchments, there's a campaign that says like the river starts here, right from your home, right from your local stream, all the way down to the ocean. So people might have seen those, those amazing TV shots of like plastic mountains in the ocean that are choking out the wildlife. Things that are plastic. If seabirds get caught up either in plastic rubbish or they're consuming the microplastics, it's really going to poison them. And the pollution in the water, it starts right with the tiny insects. So you might not think protecting an insect is as important as protecting the birds or the pandas or the giraffes or whatever. But actually, if we don't preserve all our little tiny insects, then the birds and the other animals have nothing to eat. So in our local
this is an Islamic concept. Allah talks about the gnat and the flea and the really tiny creations that are so microscopic that we wouldn't even think of them. So
exactly. So
everything's in his creation.
Yeah, everything we do has an impact. So for example, we've been doing some work in Knighton Park. Lots of people go there to walk and enjoy the park, and we really want to encourage that. But some people have dogs and they treat the dogs with flea treatment to kill the insects on the dogs, but then it washes off into the water and it kills all the little animals in the water.
No way.
So if you kind of flea treat your dog, if you can keep your dog out of the water, that would be really good, because it's the same thing that kills all the little insects, and then that means there's no bats, no fish.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It's all connected. So
gosh, yeah, you wouldn't have thought that, because literally we did our flea treatment for our cat the other day.
Well, the cats are,
hey, we've got a connection. Assalamu alaikum, Habiba. How's it going? How's Evington Road? I feel like you're so close, but so far. So we've got a visual, but we've not got audio. Habiba, what you can do is you can just show us some of the things that you're finding on the street.
I think she can't hear us. We can hear her, but she can't hear us.
Oh, so she doesn't know that we're talking.
Yeah.
Maybe she might just talk. Habiba.
hello.
Try to send her a WhatsApp message or something from your phone. But you carry on. You can carry on with this.
Yeah, go on. Carry on, Sam. What you were saying about the impact of these things in going into the water.
Yeah, and another thing that people do a lot is, because we all want to drive our cars, so people pave over their front drives, and that's really...
Wa alaikum salam. So alhamdulillah. Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's a lot.
It depends on how there are a few volunteers that have moved up along Evington Road. So it depends on what route we're taking. So just picking up rubbish as we go along. But obviously anything that we do collect starts going to the roots. So at the end of the day, all of this goes into our rivers. Clean up quite a few drains as well.
Oh. Well, thank you, Habiba, for coming and showing us, and actually Sam in the studio. All right, I think we're gonna have to let Habiba go because she can't. Oh, bless! But she was essentially saying what you were saying, that we need to educate ourselves of the impact of just tossing your can or your plastic bottle or your crisp packet or your club bar or your Kit Kat wrapper onto the streets and just thinking that's okay. That's not okay.
Yeah, I think that's the first stage is like, don't throw it in the street or in the stream. And the second stage is think about why you're using that product in the first place. So, you know, if it's a drink, there are loads of really funky reusable bottles that you can get, and you can make up squash, or you can find other ways of having a drink with you than having a plastic bottle. It just takes a bit more planning, and probably what you're going to make at home is going to be a healthier drink than what you're going to buy in the shops as well.
To be fair, I think a lot of mosques this year have put up our posters, have kind of got on the back of our campaign, have told their congregations to bring with them their own bottles and are not providing. They've got water coolers out as refill stations. And actually, I'm organised at iftar tomorrow, and I don't plan on giving out any cups either. So it's a green iftar, and we're telling people to bring their own cup or their own water bottle to refill, bring their own fork, bring their own plate. You just don't need to bring food. But yeah, everything else is you bring what you need to eat. And actually, I think people should start becoming more accustomed to this way.
Yeah, it's a simple change, and it feels like any change feels a bit strange at first.
Yeah,
but then
imagine taking your own plate to dinner.
Yeah, it becomes natural. So congratulations to Habiba and the people out on Evington Road, by the way.
I'm really proud of them.
It's really great, and that kind of community engagement. You know, the council has lots of opportunities for people to get involved with environmental volunteering. So you can become a litter champion, and if you become a litter champion through the council scheme, then you will get all that kit given to you.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have to take the rubbish back to your house.
We have a phone call.
We've got a phone call.
Great.
Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. You okay, Raheema?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
It's Habiba.
Hi, yeah, Habiba.
It's
We were just saying that we're sorry that we couldn't you couldn't hear us, but we were just talking about brooks, and we were talking about water, and we were talking about pollution as well. So you carry on and finish what you were saying. You're doing a fantastic job out there. I was just telling the listeners you were out there last week on East Park Road collecting bags of rubbish.
Yeah.
But the education element you were saying that we need to educate ourselves more.
Yes, because I think last week we planned a route to start from outside the Imperial Building, and then go, along East Park Road towards the junction, and then up St. Saviour's and come round Nottingham. The 2 hours we just spent around East Park Road and, that area, and then just a bit of Nottingham Road. And we got 7 bags in just that area, which is, it took us forever. We didn't even get to finish what we wanted to do. The amount of rubbish that we found was horrendous. Lots of fly tipping, lots of, takeaway rubbish just being thrown there. There's lots of takeaways there. There are bins there, but I think people are just being careless and just throwing it wherever they want.
And this is the same for East Park Road and Evington Road, right? Because our listeners at home couldn't hear you on the video stream as well. But we could hear you in the studio, and you were saying there's cigarette butts, there's takeaway wrappers, there's foils, there's just
cans, crisp packets, you name it. I'm outside St. Philip's Church at the moment, and I know we have a lot of weddings and functions in the hall there. And I'm literally picking up plastic plates, plastic cups that people have, I think, just thrown out, and it's gathered into the bushes.
Do you think that was actually probably an iftar dinner that they've probably had there? Does it look like it's a fresh plate?
It looks quite old.
No acne on there.
No, it looks quite old, so I'm not going to say it's quite recent. I'm not sure.
But we have to, as a Muslim community, right? We have to take ownership of
we
our
do, yes.
own impact on the environment. Allah Pak will hold us account to every single act, every single impact that we
Absolutely.
have, not just on individuals, but the impact we've had on nature. So we throw something out of the car unconsciously, we
Yeah,
have to make amends for
absolutely.
that. We
We
really
do,
do.
absolutely. And I think the hadith that gets me is that to the newest meaning it states that whatever harmful object you remove from the way is an act of charity.
Yeah.
Now, if that's an act of charity, what is the act of actually throwing harmful objects in the way? You're causing harm to not just human beings but the entire creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, which we have been deputed on this earth to look after.
Yeah.
And it starts with us. Don't think that I didn't throw that rubbish. It's not my responsibility to clear it up. Anything that you move, anything that you pick up, inshallah, is an act of charity. It's a branch of faith.
Definitely, Habiba. Inshallah, we'll
Can
get the
I
reward.
say something?
Yeah,
to
go.
Raheema? Because I think there's a lot of evidence that when people throw rubbish, other people see the rubbish has been thrown and then they copy. And in the same way, if an area is very clean, people feel ashamed to throw the rubbish.
Yeah.
So the more we clean up, the more we create that positive spiral that people see the environment is clean, then they want to keep it clean.
Definitely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and I think the more that people see you, like you're an inspiration, Habiba. You're out there. You're being proactive. You're doing something. You're not just saying actually it's someone else's problem. You've taken it upon yourself on a Saturday morning twice now, and over the last few years, a few times a year, Habiba, you're out there doing your thing, right? And just for everybody that sees you, it's having a positive impact. For everybody who comes and stops you and thanks you, you can bet you that a few of them have probably bought a litter picking stick on in their shopping trip or whatever. And
I certainly hope so.
I think you've definitely inspired people along the way, and you're an exemplary example of a Green Guardian, Leicester Green Guardians. Woo!
Inshallah. Inshallah. Yeah. I mean, when we were out last week, I think the Gurdwara is there, so there were a lot of Sikh people that were coming to the Gurdwara, and the amount of people that stopped to thank us and asked, why are you doing this? Are you sponsored by the council? Why are you doing this? And we just said, no, we just wanted to clear up the area, and how appreciative they was, and saying, if only more people, we should all get together and do
that
more.
Would be really nice, like an interfaith litter pick. I know.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's something we can have on the agenda, inshallah.
Let's see if Green Guardians watch this space.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
So yeah, thank you so much, Habiba.
Barakallah
so we've had a message in. Education is the key. The amount of times I've seen young children heading back from school littering whilst with their parent and guardian is shocking. So I think we have to be role models. If we see our child doing something wrong, I think once my child did throw something out of the car, I stopped the car. I told him, "Can you go and pick that up?" He was like, "Ugh." I'm like, "No, we're not. We shouldn't be littering." I actively encourage my children to help out with recycling and give them that education. Alhamdulillah. Shout out Habib Muhammad Kaif and Zain, because I know you're listening. But yeah, so Sam, let's go back to your work with Saving Saffron Brook, and it's about kind of bringing together people, wildlife in green spaces in the heart of the city centre. I do want to hear more about this.
Yeah, so Leicester's actually really kind of blessed with a lot of green space, but it takes a lot to kind of look after it, and obviously there's a lot of pressure on all of our spaces in terms of people want to play sport, they want to walk their dogs, they want to do...
Yeah, no, just come a bit closer.
Okay, come a bit closer. So, we're really trying to design our parks so that they're good for people and for wildlife and our whole city really as well. So there are a couple of things that people can do that are kind of really simple, little changes again that you can make to your home and garden that we're trying to encourage people. So one is when people kind of pave over their front gardens to make space for their cars, you know, that actually can have a lot of impact, because the more concrete we have in the city, the more likely we are to have flooding. So the work that I'm doing is about trying to naturally reduce flooding. But the more concrete we have, because what happens if the rain hits grass,
it can absorb.
It can absorb, but if it hits like a
slab,
hard drive,
yeah.
it just bounces off and runs away, and then you get your houses flood. And also the concrete is much hotter. So when we have those hot summers, the concrete absorbs the heat and then kind of radiates it back out.
Oh.
So if we can get a bit of green, you know, people want to have their cars, but if you can leave a bit of an edge that's got something living in it, even if you've got a pot of flowers that the bees can use when they're moving through the city, so that they've got something to feed on to get to the next place that's a bit greener, then you're going to be helping these, what we call wildlife corridors. So the wildlife needs a way to move safely through the city, you know, where the people and the cars and the shops and everything are. So the other thing people can do is, if they've got gardens or yards, is to, you know, we have a lot of urban hedgehogs, you know, and if they're out on the roads, they get run over. The hedgehogs are your friend. If you're a gardener, if you're doing any kind of food gardening, the hedgehogs are your friend, because they're going to eat up the slugs and the things you don't want in your garden. So if you create a little hole in the bottom of your fence so that they can get through to your neighbor, then they're going to have a little corridor that they can walk through. And if you can bear it, you know, people want everything to be nice and tidy, but wildlife needs little niches and spaces. So if you can bear it to leave a little pile of sticks in your garden, you're going to be really, really helping that wildlife along the way. So, and every little helps. Every single thing we do, you know, as you say, it has an impact for good or bad.
And you've mentioned that actually it's within our reach.
Yeah.
It's not a case of absolving responsibility and saying, well, someone else will do it, the council will do it. That's what we pay our council tax for. And, you know, people can really get on their high horse and say, actually, it's someone else's problem, I can throw this. It's that sense of entitlement that I actually find quite... I find it actually really sad that people have that sense of entitlement, that I can just throw this, or I can just, you know, do whatever I want, and it's someone else will fix this.
It's really fascinating when you look in our rivers. So I live close to...
It's very un-Islamic, by the way, having
absolutely.
A sense of entitlement.
Yeah, but so I live close to the Arboretum in Shady Lane, and when I went past, you know, not long ago, somebody had thrown off the bridge a load of furniture into the river. You know, it's a tiny river.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about people think if they're throwing something over a fence or over a bridge, that
out of sight, out of mind.
It's gone away. And, you know, what's really frustrating about that is if you live in the city and you have furniture that you want to get rid of, the council will come and take it away for free.
So it's about education, right?
Yeah.
But I guess it's also about, and as Muslims, it's about knowing that whatever you're doing, you are responsible for your every action. And if you are aware constantly that God is watching you, that Allah is watching you, Allah knows what you're doing, then can you really throw a chair or a piece of furniture into water, or leave it out on someone's street outside their houses or whatever? Because there's a lot of fly tipping that happens as well. And it's on where my parents live on Worthington Street. They have these little triangles, we call them, and every now and again there's mattresses and furniture in there, and you just think, well, there's council services that offer this, but also, you know, spend some money, take responsibility, pay £25 or £30, hire a van, or get someone to do that for you, and take it to the skip.
Yeah,
and
or recycle it. You know, there's, you know,
it just takes a little bit more effort.
Yeah,
but it's so rewarding, and actually you're building reward instead of accumulating sins, because you are accumulating sins by fly tipping.
And like we said earlier, you know, as soon as people see fly tipping, they'll add to it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's almost like it. Just
what's in the triangle? Let's add more things.
To it.
Gosh, and just yesterday when I was there, someone had put a TV
Yeah.
in there, and then someone's asking me, "Excuse me, do you know if this TV is working?"
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't think it is, because if it was working, they wouldn't put it in this, in essentially this little mini skip that's been created. And I know the council is doing more in terms of finding people and things, but I feel like it's more education's needed.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, there's a lot of work goes on in our schools. So Leicester has a really strong eco-schools program, you know, and we have the most green flag schools of anywhere in Britain. So we're doing quite well, but it's also taking it out of the school grounds and into our daily lives. Like you say, when the children come out of school, you know, they're going and picking stuff up from the takeaways and just dropping it on the floor, you know, and it's kind of... Yeah, it's. I mean, we need education for the children and the adults.
And so, if there's kids on their way home from football, your parents have picked you up. I know some of you, and I know from my son that many of you are part of these green flag schools, where at school you've learnt about protecting your local environment. So maybe it's time for you to share some tips with your parents. Yeah. So I'm reaching out to all of you kids who have learnt something about recycling or the environment. Share that with your parents. Get them on the Green Guardian side, and you be a little eco warrior for us. All right?
Definitely.
So what would so there might still be some people who are not convinced and a bit unsure about kind of coming on to one of your volunteer days or activities. What advice would you give to them about the kinds of staff that will be there, or the rangers? Like, what are they likely? How many people come to these volunteering sessions, and where can they be found? And then we can ask Akil to also put up a list of upcoming sessions on this Facebook thread, so people can register.
So if people want to do conservation volunteering, there are kind of two main routes in the city. One is through a charity called the Conservation Volunteers, and they have like a Facebook group and a website that you can go on and you can see what activities are taking place close to your home. And then the council has a whole scheme called Leicester Environmental Volunteers that work on the parks and open spaces.
And are they on Facebook as well?
No, well, the parks are on Facebook, but basically you have to go onto the council website, which is just www.leicester.gov.uk, and then search for environmental volunteering, and then there's like an online application. So it has to be done online.
And this Assemble.
Yeah, it's Assemble. It's a slightly complicated process, but once you get through the kind of the online bit, it is really friendly. So we have a load of environmental rangers who are really well trained. They will help you to understand the tools. You always get like a nice cup of tea. You get to meet people. You get to be out in the countryside, and you can learn new skills. So we're really trying to build up people's, you know, understanding.
But there's options of city and county work, or is it mainly city?
So for the conservation volunteers, there's city and county, and for Leicester Environmental Volunteers, because it's Leicester City Council, there it's in the city, but they have something similar at most of the boroughs as well around. So for example, we've been doing this work up at Knighton Park in there's a little wood there called Knighton Spinney. So there the volunteers have been, you know, over the last couple of years they've been clearing away bramble and holly and making the space for these beautiful little white flowers called wood anemones. So if anybody is around on a Sunday morning, you can go up to Knighton Spinney, and you can, at this time of year, you can see the flowers, and you can see it's like a carpet of white.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Because I remember when I came to the tree planting session at Knighton Park, they were really conscious of looking before we began planting, just to make sure that there was no wooden enemy that was sprouting up, so that we were careful that we weren't going to destroy that. And we were careful where we planted the trees within the spinney of Knighton Park. And it was honestly, I never knew that the spinney existed in Knighton Park. So is it open to the public?
It's open to the public.
Because I know it was under lock and key when we went.
The reason Knighton Spinney is locked is not so much to keep the people out as to keep dogs out, because it's a wildlife reserve, and so we don't want the dogs to trample on the flowers, and also we don't want to disturb the wildlife like the breeding birds there. But there are other nature reserves in Leicester that you can walk through really easily. So next to Sir Jonathan North and Lancaster schools. There's a little wildlife site there called Washbrook Nature Area.
Oh, okay.
We've done a lot of work there on restoring the river and the grassland and the woodland. And that's a beautiful little site to walk through. And in fact, next Wednesday, we are running a free play day there between 10 and 1. So anybody can just turn up and come and learn more about the river.
And it's half term next week. So
Yeah.
it'd be a perfect thing to do with your children, right?
Yeah, so come down.
So what ages would you recommend
I think-
for this activity?
Yeah, between 5 and 12 will benefit the most, but it's open to everyone to come and talk to us and see what we've done with the river restoration work. We can talk through all the different habitats that are there and, you know, all the different opportunities to get involved. And we're going to have Leicester and Rutland Wildlife Trust running some like wildlife treasure hunts and games for people to join in with as well.
That actually sounds really exciting. I
Yeah.
might come down with my kids. No, really.
We're doing another one up at Brox Hill Country Park, which is just outside the city up in Oadby. So for anybody who's in that area.
What date is that?
That's
around
on
the
the
corner
12th.
from me.
Yeah, that's on. It's still a Wednesday, 10 till 1, up at Brox Hill on the 12th of April.
Okay,
But
I'll be at both.
Yeah. So we've got a kind of website within the council, microsite within the council website that lists all our kind of activities. So we're doing like guided walks. We've had events where we've tried to get people out identifying different bits of nature and spotting what they can see.
See, that's the one thing that I'm starting to get more into green and nature and conservation. But actually, growing up, I grew up in Highfields, and I describe this as a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
I know that you're saying there's little pockets, but I grew up in a terrace house with no garden, paved garden, and actually nature and greenery wasn't part and parcel of my growing up. Only, you know, from time to time we'd go to Abbey Park and have picnics there. We'd go to Spin Hill Park, and when it snowed, we would make our own makeshift sledges and slide down in the snow and stuff. So like, it was very occasional. It wasn't like didn't have like nature in my back garden that I could just engage with. There was no soil to be able to grow onions or potatoes or even just things like that. But as I've got older, and you know, I'm really starting to become more passionate about the environment, but you know, trying my hand at different things. You know, this year I didn't grow my own veggies, but I did during that lockdown year, and actually I realized how difficult it was. Then I don't know, just try different things to connect with nature. And I don't know if we've had any more messages from people, but here's a message. I enjoy going out for long walks in my local park. Yeah, that's an amazing way to connect with nature, and I think that's definitely something anybody can do. Anybody can go out and walk, whether you're walking in the park, whether you're walking in the streets of Highfields, just get out and get that fresh air, feel that fresh air against your face. And let's have a look at a few messages before we wrap up. Salam's Girls, fantastic show, great reminders for the environment. Being outdoors is also great for our well-being and spending time with family. Have a blessed Ramadan. It's very commendable for parents. Oh, okay. We don't have time to do your messages, but Jazakallah for messaging in. Now, just kind of to close, Leicester Green Guardians are on Instagram, so join us there. Every day we've got a new post. Get involved, and you know, just get involved with what we're doing. Next week we'll be joined by Sarah from the Green Dean tribe, and Taz Hassam has some plans. I'll have to work out what her Instagram handle is. But Jazakallah for listening in. Thank you, Sam, for coming in today. And it's been a pleasure to meet you and for you to join us on this Saturday morning. And I just want to kind of just lastly mention Ramadan FM's fundraising appeal this year is for Leicester Hospitals Charity. And the Leicester Hospital Charity this year is creating a spiritual care centre at the Leicester Royal Infirmary. The space will be used by hospital staff, patience, and community as a place to reflect and pray, forming part of the healing process for our community. To support this year's £10,000 fundraising appeal with a donation, please visit www.justgiving.com/page/Ramadan Radio 2023, and you can find that link all over our socials. Thank you so much for listening in. Jazakallah, and I'll be back next week, Saturday, same time, same place. Assalamu alaikum.